Welcome back to another edition of Strengthening Oklahoma. And this edition of Strengthening Oklahoma is brought to you by The Winston in Norman. The Winston's got great food, better drinks, and the best patio in Norman. Visit thewinston.com to see their menu or order online. We are hours away from kickoff in Norman, Oklahoma, and the Brent Venables era officially about to get underway. And a guy that is going to be integral to this season, such a big piece of this Oklahoma offense, one of our favorites around here. Wide receiver Marvin Mims checking in to get us primed and ready for this matchup with UTEP. How are we doing today, Marvin?
Doing great. Can't wait to get the ball kicked off tomorrow. I'm just looking forward to it.
How you just talk about that excitement level? I mean, it was a tough, grueling camp. You guys got after it. Now 2 weeks to prepare for UTEP. Game time almost here. Just, your emotions right now, your excitement level, where you at?
Yeah, I'm up there. It's kind of crazy how fast this came around. Talking about from January and first match committee, first workout and all that stuff. To be where we are now, one day away from kickoff, it's crazy, but I'm looking forward to it.
So you've played a lot of football now at Oklahoma. Do you still get the jitters, or is it, hey, business as usual, I've done this plenty of times, or do you still get that kind of that anxious excitement as game day nears?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. Just thinking about it, I feel like I'm getting nervous and stuff, even for the spring game a little bit, but I have to remind myself oh, I've done it multiple times, I'll be fine, it's just another day.
I still get nervous even when I'm not even playing. I still get nervous on game days. I think nervous energy is a good thing. Makes you feel alive, makes you feel well. Camp, as far as camp goes, everybody's kind of talked about it. And we're now past camp, but just where do you feel individually about where you are right now, right here, about to get ready for this first game after having a full spring in this offense, after having a full camp in this offense? How do you feel just mentally, physically for yourself heading into this season, heading into this game?
Yeah, I feel great. As far as preparation goes, offensively, I feel like we've gotten everything we need to get in, especially tweaks on some of the same plays and stuff like that. Nothing will really surprise us going into game weeks, even to come. And physically, I'm probably the best I'm feeling ever in my career, honestly, just with strength wise, confidence in myself and what I can do on the field. And yeah, I just feel really good.
That's good to hear, man. And you've got a new position coach. Now he's been in the room, right, as the assistant, but LaDamian Washington takes over as the interim wide receiver coach. What has that transition been like for you?
Yeah, it's been a little bit different. Just kind of because this is technically my third receiver coach, my third year. Started off with Coach Simmons. I went to Coach Gundy last year. Now we have Coach Washington. It's different, definitely different. He played the position, which is a great thing. So he's more detail oriented and stuff when he's in meetings and stuff like that. But I'm excited to have him as our coach. He's a huge player guy. He cares about us, loves us, definitely. It's kind of how the whole program is now. But he switched in the middle of fall camp, so we just kind of hit the ground running. We never stopped.
That's great. As far as your role within that room, do you feel like you're getting old? As Gabe said, you played a lot of football. You're getting up there. You're a vet now. Do you feel more of a leadership role? And even with, Coach Washington, it's great to have him, but he's, inexperienced. This is his first kind of go around at it. Do you feel like a heightened sense of leadership on your standpoint in that room?
Definitely. Even with me, Drake, and Theo in that room, being the obvious, older guys, I feel like whenever Coach Washington's going over stuff, he'll ask us, hey, what do you think about this? We're all kind of doing it together. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a great thing for our group, especially since how fast things change around. There's a huge, comfortability level within our group and just being open in the room and stuff like that. So I think that's big for us, especially with all the young guys we have in there and the transfers.
So speaking of those young guys, a lot of positive chatter going on about Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson, especially Jaden. What has he looked like up to this point? And kind of, I don't know if this is fair, but what do you think his ceiling can be?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a lot of myself when I first got to Oklahoma, just as far as, the skill levels there, playmaking's there. Physically, he's a little skinny, but as the figure he is, probably 6'5", I think they have him at. kid can basically do whatever he wants. He just has to get there mentally, come every day, do the same thing he does. I mean, just consistency is going to be a big thing with him. But I mean, I'm looking forward to watching him play. He plays with that edge. I mean, he's a loud talker. I mean, you're always going to hear him. Dude loves to talk, but I'm excited for him.
You can talk as long as you can back it up on the field with your play, and it sounds like he can. What about Nick Anderson? Because there's been a lot of people raving about Jaden Gibson, but it sounds to me like I'm not so sure Nick Anderson might not even have a higher ceiling. Bigger bodied guy, right? I mean, he's got the size at 6'4", but he's 200 plus pounds. He wasn't here the entire spring, so he's having to play some catch up. But it sure sounds like, based off all accounts I've been told, this kid, he's the real deal.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nick, I mean, we have the same trainer back at home. I mean, he's a real skilled, polished guy. Got hurt in the spring, so he wasn't able to practice at all. So he is kind of playing catch up a little bit, just with him being comfortable with the offense. But I think whenever he gets there mentally and just like calms down a little bit, I mean, stops overthinking, just plays football. I mean, he's going to be a great addition to this offense and to this team for this year and future years to come.
So, in the wide receiver room, right? Do you guys talk about like personal goals, your personal goals for the season? Because clearly you've got team goals, right? Win the Big 12, go to the college football playoff, win your rivalry games, all that stuff. But do you discuss like the numbers all of y'all want to put up? Like what's that conversation like between you and the rest of the wide receiver room?
Honestly, we've never talked about numbers. The only person who's ever talked about numbers to me was Jaden Gibson. He always tells me he's going to beat my freshman touchdown record. And I always tell him there's no way you're doing that. Like that's pretty much it.
A little competition. I mean, it's healthy. It's 100% good. I can speak for myself. We used to, whether it's tackles for lost sacks. I mean, we keep a running tally, and we like to, push each other, drive each other a little bit on who could put up bigger stats. As far as this offense goes, and now that you've gotten to be more and more comfortable in it, is there a certain receiver spot that you feel best at? My guess would be they're going to be able to move you around, have some versatility, but inside, outside, is there a particular area that you really feel suits your game the best?
I mean, just speaking from like reps within the offense, I mean, slot's probably my most comfortable thing just because it's probably the most load you have to learn and stuff like that. And they started me off there, so I'm more comfortable with that. Now I'm trying to get, caught up on the outside stuff and certain things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it feels kind of cool. I played outside my whole freshman year. So when I go back there, it kind of feels like back in the day, you know what I mean? But there's less thinking outside, more thinking inside. But I got all the inside stuff down. So now it's just time to get the outside stuff down. I'll be pretty good for the rest of the season.
So I think a lot of people wonder, okay, what's the big difference between playing on the outside as a wide receiver and then playing in the slot? You mentioned more thinking. Like, what are the biggest differences when it comes to playing outside or playing, within a little more inside in the slot position?
Yeah, I mean, playing in the slot, I mean, it's kind of like a fielder boundary thing. So the field, you have that field backer that you have to worry about. Sometimes you have a nickel that you're worried about. You always have to worry about the corner. You kind of give stuff away about coverages and then the safeties too. So it's kind of a lot of thinking, especially in the run game where who do you have to block and all that stuff. But when you go outside, I mean, it's basically just safety your corner. There's not much you really have to do within this offense or most offenses, honestly, in college football as far as, responsibilities. So I feel like that's easier. And then, yeah, it's pretty much it.
It's a great breakdown. I'm just gonna go a little further. Some of our fans, they don't know. They love to learn and hear you guys talk about it. But when you're down, because you were mentioning noticing corners and recognizing coverage, how much stuff are you doing pre-snap? Like, plays called, you get out to your spot. Are you checking safeties? Are you checking where that corner's at? Like, walk us through kind of what it's like for you in real time. And you guys are going fast, so you got to process this information really quickly. But let's just say plays called, you get allocated where you're supposed to go. What's going through your mind? What's your process like before that ball is actually snapped?
Yeah, so I mean, when we get the signal, I mean, we got to get our alignment, which in this offense is probably going to be a wide alignment. We got to line up fast because we like to move the ball fast. So when you get the signal, you probably got 3 seconds to get ready. I mean, you got to get your feet set, make sure you're on or off the ball, depending on what that is. If you're off the ball, you want to be as close as possible. And then you got to look at the corner safety, all that stuff in 3 seconds, especially depending on the play. The corner kind of gives it away for the most part if he's locked in press, if he's looking like he's about to bail, stuff like that, cloud coverage, looking like he's just in catch mode. Safety, depending on how far they are off the hash, one safety, two safety. Sometimes there might be three safeties. But yeah, I mean, it's a fast process, but it's honestly easy with how much repetition we get with it in practice and stuff like that.
So one of the advantages of the wide splits, right? And this is, going back to the roots of this offense that Lebby runs, is that you really can't disguise much in the secondary, right? How much easier does that make it on you guys as wide receivers, spreading the defense out and essentially making them show you what the coverage is going to be?
I absolutely love it. I mean, even with coverage, I mean, it opens up the run game too, because some teams want to bring that back out there to slow down the slot and stuff like that. And that just opens up the box and the run game. And we have Eric Gray back there. So, I mean, he's going to get a lot of good runs this season. But as far as the safeties, I mean, they have to come further off the hash. Corners, they have to play kind of true to their coverage. If they're supposed to be tight, they have to play tight. I mean, they can't really bail out too fast. I mean, it helps a lot. Kind of like there's not really much disguising. We're seeing a lot of 4 mix on film and stuff like that, and where they're bracketing the slot kind of, and the further the slot is, the more you have to take out that backer and that safety, and it's honestly way easier to read coverages.
So in this offense, it's fast, physical, fearless. I believe that's Coach Lebby's mantra. And everybody is going to be, I think, is enamored to see just how fast is it going to be. We hear about this tempo, and you guys have had to dial it back some against the defense, and I'm sure it's going to be at warp speed. I want one of each. I want to know something that you love about that tempo, and then maybe something that's difficult or you don't like so much about the tempo.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I love it. One thing I really love about it is that defenses can't really get set to it. So sometimes you'll have guys running free, and that's going against our defense in practice. So can you imagine going against actual defense in a game? That's a great thing. One thing that's kind of hard about it is getting the signal, getting set, where you're supposed to be, exactly where you're supposed to be in alignment, just because it kind of helps everyone's alignment. So it is a lot of thinking, but whenever you get it down, get it handled, I mean, you're good. But, we're adding new plays every week, different adjustments. So there's a lot to think about, but we're getting it done.
Speaking of that thinking, and I played in offenses like this where it's one word and it means a formation. It means everything, right? How have you gone about studying all of that? Because really, I mean, there's a whole lot of thinking in a very short amount of time based off that one word. Like, what was your method to absorb all of that information?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I'm more of like a walkthrough type of guy. So I'll sit in meetings and I'll know it, and I have to now I have to record both the inside and outside and what they're doing. But when we get to walk through and he starts calling it, it's one word, like you got to go, know where you're supposed to be and all that stuff. It's kind of easy. Sometimes we have numbers. I kind of like to do the odd and even, right and left type thing. That usually helps. Helps me know where I'm supposed to go. Helps me know where the play is going. Other than that, though, I mean, it's basically just repetition, practice, and it'll come to you.
Rep it, baby. What is that called, Gabe? Active learning? He's an active learner doing
Kinesthetic
things.
Learning.
Is that what it is?
I think I might have just made that up, but it sounds good, huh?
It sounds pretty good. I'm that way too. Visual is okay for me, but whenever I'm actually working through something, I feel like it really sticks into my mind and becomes second nature, like you said, with the repetition. We do have UTEP coming up here in a very short amount of time. I know you've had plenty of time to watch them on film, prepare for them. For Oklahoma fans that don't know much about this UTEP team, what do they look like on film? Maybe a thing or two that really stands out as you were getting ready for this game during the week of preparation.
Yeah, I mean, just throughout the 2 weeks that we've had, I mean, they like to press, like to run cover one, cover two on third and deep. I mean, honestly, they're just another football team. Like they stick to what they do, no matter who they're playing, no matter what they do. I mean, they had the game last weekend against North Texas, so we watched that a couple times. But other than that, I mean, they're true to what they do. I mean, I feel like we have a good counter to it, and we're just ready to go out there and play.
I'll tell you this, and I think he's suspended. He got ejected for targeting in the North Texas game, but keep your head on a swivel for 21, man. I mean, he almost got ejected 2 times before he actually got ejected for targeting against North Texas. So just keep your head on a swivel. I think his last name's Prince. Watch out for that guy, man. He's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to see exactly what everything looks like in this game. I am curious though. We've asked you about route running, all this stuff. What about blocking? Because I know Jeff Levy wants to run the rock, and one thing about this offense, they're going to run it, and there's a physical. It's the second word in kind of the mantra, physical. And you've never been shy about blocking, but where do you feel in that role, especially in the slot, as you kind of mentioned, maybe matched up on a backer? How do you feel just about that aspect of your game within this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as far as blocking goes, I feel the best I felt in my career about it. Last year, like it's easy kind of like going up and making contact with guys, but sticking on them is kind of the hard part. But just workouts and stuff, like I said earlier, like the confidence and my strength, how much bigger I've gotten, my weight and stuff like that. I mean, it kind of plays a deal with like a mindset as far as blocking goes. They always say blocking is kind of like a want to thing. You can do it as long as you want to. And that's where I'm at right now with my mindset and my confidence. I'm feeling good about it.
Okay, so this is going to sound like a weird question, but there's a question after this, so it'll make sense here in a second. Are you a crazy person?
Oh,
I'd probably say like probably not, unless I'm with like people that I'm like I know and like I'm comfortable with. Probably not.
Okay. Being a punt returner, I've always thought it's for crazy people. I feel like you have to be insane to return punts. So how excited are you to still be doing that for this team? And why do you do it, man? Because it just seems like you have to be an insane person to do it.
And honestly, I love it. That was like, I mean, coming in freshman year, that's probably like the first thing they actually like let me do. And like I remember I got contacted for COVID. I was out 2 weeks in fall camp, never got, positive for COVID. And I come back, and I think it's the Tuesday before we play Missouri State. And we're at practice, and DeMarco Murray tells me, like, hey, you're starting on punt return. And like I was so nervous. Like, I remember the first punt return out there, like Coach Beamer came up to me, he's like, hey, Rambo's gonna get the first punt return, but after that, like, you're good to go. And I was nervous, like it was crazy. But honestly, I prefer punt return over kick return. There's just something about kick return, people running down at you full speed, and I don't know. I'm just a punt returner at heart. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love it too. I'm confused here. What do you mean crazy person?
Well,
I mean, they get
I
protection.
don't understand.
You can't hit them.
I don't understand. Well, you can't hit them, but it happens all the time where the guys like catch it and he just gets blasted for no reason. It's like a 15-yard penalty. It's like, oh, hey, no, I don't know, but there's just something about the unknown of catching a punt. Like when you're catching a kickoff, you're not about to get blasted right when you catch it. Just like when you're a punt returner, you don't know. I don't know. I just find it fascinating. It's for crazy people.
Just be able to make that initial defender miss, and you're good, right, Marvin? I mean, that's what it is. A little short area quickness, make them miss, and make a play.
Yeah, I mean, guy's about 5 yards ahead, like away from you. I mean, I like to return if he's 5 yards. Try to make a miss. I mean, if you make a miss, you just hit a gap. I mean, honestly, like I feel like a good punt return is about 10 yards, 10 plus. I mean, you get 10 plus. I mean, it helps the offense out a lot. Hit a gap, put your head down, get through it. If you break, you break. If you don't, still got some positive yardage. So I love it. Absolutely love it.
I love it. Wide receivers with a tougher mindset than offensive linemen. This is the content that I and everybody is here to get. So we like where your head's at as it relates to that, Marvin. All right. So we got fan questions we do each and every week. Our fan questions brought to you by Love's Travel Stop. Visit loves.com for more information on the nation's leading travel stop network that's headquartered right here in the great state of Oklahoma. Bradley Westfall wants to ask, I was always impressed with how well you and other players handle questions and conversations with the press. Is there any specific training or press etiquette that you guys go through when you arrive at OU before being able to be available for interviews?
Okay. Honestly, I never went through any of that stuff. I'm not sure if the other guys went through it, but now I think with Venables, I think there is like a press etiquette thing for like the younger guys coming in. But Don't mark my word on that, but I think that's an actual thing that's coming to the program. So I feel like that would be pretty cool, pretty good for the young guys coming in, interviews and stuff like that. I mean, it'll just make us look better, take us more to the next level.
Yeah, and that's impressive that you're this good without any
Right.
formal training. Look at you, man.
I try my best.
Yeah. All right. This next one comes from Aubrey C. This is an interesting one. How did your locker end up in the middle of the special teams players? It appears like you have a close bond with those guys. We already know your love for kicking. So how'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just get randomly assigned a locker. So my locker was there, and I was originally next to an O lineman. And then last fall, I mean, it's been open. That locker has been open since then. So I didn't have a locker buddy for a while, and I honestly loved it. And then Michael Turk came, and then he came and took that locker, and I was kind of like iffy about it. I was like, oh, I don't really want a locker buddy, but yeah, I mean, Turk's there. He's always vlogging. I'm on his videos probably every time. I absolutely love him. He's a great guy though. But yeah, I like to call myself like a specialist at heart because I'm always like a returner. So I always add myself to the specialist groups and stuff like that. So that's probably like how I'm close with those guys.
I still can't believe the last time we had you on, you said that if you weren't a receiver, you'd be a kicker. You hurt me. I'm just going to start calling you the specialist. That's going to be his new nickname, Marvin the Specialist Mims. It fits, I guess, right?
Yeah, I feel like it fits. There's actually, I think we're in fall camp, and the kickers were warming up field goals, and I was like waving at the kicker. I was like, "Hey, set the ball up for me, so I can kick it." And he like absolutely like he was so scared about it. Like he thought Coach Venables was gonna like yell at him and all that stuff. He wouldn't let me do it, but we used to do that every time last season before practice.
So I'm just going to give you a tip. It's a pro tip here because I think you're going to be playing football for a long time. At the next level, it's like they're their own people. Okay. They sit together, they golf together, they spend time together. So I'm just going to forewarn you, deep snappers, punter, kicker, they live in like their own world. I'm not telling you can't be friendly, but be careful because I don't know if you want to be completely in that camp. Am I lying, Gabe? I mean, am I saying something that's wrong?
No. It's like there's clicks on any team, but in the NFL, they've just got like a different job than everyone else.
Yeah, they're on their own island. They're living in their own specialist island. So again, I know you like
Looks
all
fun.
that, but
I was always jealous.
They're playing. They don't do anything. They play golf all the time. They're always messing around. Like guys like you got to actually punch the clock and go to work.
Yeah, it's good to know. I'll take that information with me for sure.
All right, we got one last one. Josh Smith. He wants to know what coverage do you most like to play against, and what coverage do you least like to play against?
It's a great question. I honestly love going against man free, cover one, anything that's man to man. I love it just because I feel like 99% of the time, you know, I can beat the guy that's across from me. Stuff I hate. I mean, drop eight, honestly hate it. That was very like irritating last year. I used to hate cover three, but now I kind of like cover three. Seems always open, especially with the offense we have. I mean, we have a lot of cover three beaters. But I mean, to simple it for the fans, I mean, I love man to man. I like zone probably the least. So simple version for you guys back at home.
He hates playing against Iowa State, just like everyone else in college football. It's ridiculous.
They kind of have that blueprint that everybody has seemed to try to, put their own spin on it, but doing similar things to what they're doing. Well, hopefully UTEP is running a lot of man-to-man and getting situations for you to thrive and had a lot of success. Stay healthy. Best of luck. Always great to chat with you, man. And we'll do it again next month. Have a great start to the season.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks to Marvin for joining us. And now it's time for my man Gabe and I to break it down. The breakdown brought to you by the Oklahoma Proton Center. It's one of the top cancer centers in the region using state-of-the-art proton therapy. Oklahoma Proton Center, more than a cure, quality of life. Speaking of quality is Marvin Mims, both with his interview skills and his skills on the field. We know how talented this guy is. He's setting state records out of Frisco, setting Oklahoma records his freshman year. overall productivity took a little bit of a step back last year, but I firmly believe his numbers are going to get back on par. I think 1,000-yard season is doable for Marvin Mims within this offense. He was close to that his freshman season. I think his overall targets are going to go up, and I think he's going to be somebody who's living right there around that 1,000-yard mark this upcoming season. Jeff Lebby is going to get the ball to his playmakers, and Marvin Mims, one of the best playmakers on this Oklahoma offense this year.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be an absolute weapon in the slot, and Levy's going to move him all over the field. Right,
Correct.
he's going to be a guy that they use a lot in motion to create a reaction from defenses. And once again, I know we've talked a little bit about this. The guy's got a chip on his shoulder. Man, I think he feels some type of way about people not talking about him that much heading into the season. We're talking a lot about him locally, but nationally, I don't think he's getting the respect that he feels he deserves. And that's a huge motivating factor. He's one of the leaders on this football team. He's going to have the ball a lot and be a massive contributor. So I think he's in his best position there in the slot. And I really do expect him to have a massive year.
Same. I think obviously route running down the field, but don't be surprised if you see him on the perimeter, catching some bubbles, getting outside. He's got the ability to make people miss. That's why he's a punt returner. He's good in short area, tight spaces. And can, get out of some jams. We've seen his vertical threat ability, and slot fade is going to be a play that you're going to see out of this offense. But I think that Coach Lebby will utilize him in a multitude of ways around the line of scrimmage, vertically, intermediate. I think all three levels is going to be the way Marvin Mims is utilized. And, again, I think him and Jalil Farouk, we've talked about Jalil on here. I really think those are going to be the two primary targets for this Oklahoma offense this upcoming season. I think both guys, bring a skill set to the table that Coach Lebby really thinks can thrive and have a lot of success in this offense.
I'm interested to see just Mims get the ball a little quicker in his hands in some of these concepts, right? He feels like he's been, one of those guys deep over routes, posts, some of the drag screen stuff that Lincoln kind of specialized in. But what can he do with the ball in his hands in a quick situation or in one of those bubbles? Like, can he be a more dynamic guy after the catch if he's put in those situations? We just haven't seen a ton of it for him. And he certainly sounds confident in his ability to make people miss. So I'm excited to see him in some more situations like that. That being said, you start thinking about these first two games.
You can see much.
Not going to see much, right? UTEP and Kent State. If you're Jeff Lebby, you're not going to show a ton in the passing game. You're going to keep it pretty vanilla, and you're just going to let your superior athletes do their thing in these first two games. So I don't think we're going to get many elaborate concepts in the passing game these first couple weeks, but there's no doubt Marvin Mims is going to get his touches.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be really fun to watch, to see what he does in some of those shorter, quicker concepts where he has the ball in his hands quickly.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more in Lincoln than you are these first couple of weeks in Norman. I think that's putting it lightly. But he's still going to get touches. I bet he still gets on the perimeter a little bit. I bet they still throw him some quicks, get the ball in his hands, see what he can do. I think this first game in particular, I think the whole season it's going to be about running the rock. I think they want to run the rock. I think, Bill Bedenbaugh thinks that his offensive line's better. He likes where that group is. They've got good depth. They're playing more physically, and this offense is predicated on running the football. I mean, let's not get it twisted. There's a lot of balance in this offense, and they want to run it. And I think that's what we're going to see as much as anything here in this opener. I mean, clearly, pass is going to come with that. When they get defense on their heels, if they get the chance to exploit that, I'm sure that they will. But if I were a betting man, I would bet that the main emphasis, especially in this first game, is going to be to, showcase your physicality and really show some domination at the line of scrimmage and run the football at will. Like, I expect Eric Gray, Marcus Major to have a big impact. And I think as the season goes along, we'll see Marvin, Jalil, these other receivers continue to expand their role and their impact on this offense.
Yeah, and when you look at UTEP's defense, the front seven's the strength. Lot of veteran players back for them. They've arguably got the best defensive line in all of Conference USA. Now, they struggled at times against North Texas in that front seven getting off blocks. So I expect Oklahoma's run game to really get humming in this opener, and that'll set up all the play action stuff.
Yep.
And I think that's something that's going to be really interesting to see how Jeff Lebby utilizes play action, right? If they're running it really well and kind of that, it's not quite outside zone, it's not quite inside zone. I call it mid zone, that he likes to specialize, like variations of that concept. If they can run those really effectively, that sets up some really good play action situations where you're carrying out some extended zone fakes and really drawing those safeties up. And that would set up just some massive shots down the field for a guy in the slot like Marvin Mims. So once again, not sure how much of that we'll see. I would expect if they're running zone really well, they're going to take some play action shots down the field in this game. But just when you think about the season as a whole, I am interested to see how they utilize play action pass.
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a part of what they do. Any team that can run the football effectively wants to utilize that, wants to take advantage of safeties cheating down, middle of the field, potentially being open. So it most certainly will. Again, I'm expecting a pretty vanilla game plan here. And, I don't think you want to show your entire hand. So it's going to be a big piece of what they do throughout the course of the season. This week in particular, we shall see. I think running the football, attacking the perimeter, putting your better athletes out there in space and making UTEP try to match their athleticism, their speed out there in open space. I would imagine is going to be a pretty focal point of this game plan and in this initial week. Jaden Gibson, you kind of mentioned it, and it's interesting that Jaden's already saying I'm coming after your record, and he looks fantastic, and we've seen him. He's been making some spectacular catches here in fall camp. Nick Anderson's the one that I'm a little giddy about, man. I mean, he just looks a little different in a uniform. I mean, he's a big dude now. For a wide receiver, a freshman, an 18-year-old, he's a big dude. And I'm really intrigued to see how they utilize him as well within this offense. I think that both those true freshmen, I think we're going to see them all throughout the course of the season. It will not surprise me if, as this season goes on, their role just continues to expand. I do not see these guys utilizing a red shirt this year. They bring a little bit something different to the table just from a size standpoint. And I definitely think it's intriguing, and it's something that this staff has really liked what they've seen so far in fall camp.
Big humans. Give me all the big humans at every position. No, you look at Gibson now, he's going to add weight to that frame.
Sure.
And Nick Anderson, we saw what Rodney ended up looking like, right? They've got the same parents. So I'm fully anticipating him looking like an absolute mutant before he leaves Norman. So when you talk about the upside of those two guys, whoo, man, that could be quite the physically dominant duo at wide receiver moving forward.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, there you go, man. We don't have much more time. It is time to kick this thing off, so then we can review it and we can talk about what we saw before we get ready for the following week. So that wraps up another week here on Strengthening Oklahoma. Thanks to Muse Growth Strategies for continuing to help us spread the word about strengthening Oklahoma. And as we always do, thank you to you guys, our fantastic subscribers. You make this thing go. We appreciate you believing in us and being a part of this and making an impact, and our players and this team right here at Strengthening Oklahoma. Bring the noise, bring the pain to the Palace on Saturday. Coach Venables has called you out, and we will echo that as well. Should be a very fun Saturday as a new era in Oklahoma football gets kick started. We'll be back with you start next week to recap all of it and some. We thank you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you again next time right here on Strengthening Oklahoma.